This may not be a very popular opinion, however, it's about to get worse. Hello, I'm Wiseman Danofsky and welcome to another installment of WMTop 10, the show where I list my top 10 favourite somethings of something I like and tell you all why, because opinions are cool. This episode, being as we did the best Star Wars villains last time, it only makes sense to do the best Star Wars heroes this time. Now, with Star Wars being one of the biggest movie franchises of all time, it is filled to the brim with tremendous hero characters. You've got your Luke Skywalkers, you've got your Obi-Wan Kenobis, and we're going to go ahead and list my top 10 favourite ones right now. So let's jump straight into it. This is my top 10 favourite Star Wars heroes. Number 10 is Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, what I like about this guy is that he was one of the first characters in the Star Wars series to really bring in a different view of what the Force means. He sees it as more of a religion, and he has a very different philosophy of the Force than, say, the Jedi Council, who he goes against on a number of occasions. What I find interesting about Qui-Gon is that he has roughly the same sort of screen time in The Phantom Menace that old Ben had in A New Hope, and yet I feel like when you get to the end of the movie and he meets his end at the hands of Darth Maul, it has more of an impact on me than when old Ben goes down at the end of New Hope. I don't know, I feel like we got more exploration of this character in Phantom Menace than we got of old Ben in the Star Wars original. Add to this the fact that he's played by Liam Neeson, playing a wise mentor role as opposed to the ridiculous over-the-top action roles he seems to be playing now. And it creates a very complicated and very interesting character who has his own views of what the Force means and what it means to be a Jedi. A great character played by a great actor, Qui-Gon Jinn gets my number 10 spot.
I'm not allowed to train you, so I want you to watch me and be mindful. Always remember, your focus determines your reality. Stay close to me, and you'll be safe.
Number 9 is Kanan Jarrus. Now, without a doubt, Kanan Jarrus is my favourite character on Star Wars Rebels. He's the father figure of the group. He's this wise Jedi Knight who never got the chance to become a Jedi Master because of Order 66. And surviving Order 66 makes him a really complex character because he's not your cut-dry Jedi. He's a Jedi who's suffering with severe survivor's guilt. Really, to me, Kanan is the Han Solo of the Star Wars Rebels show. Before the show begins, he's out for himself and he's just trying to get by and not be noticed until he meets Hera and becomes involved in the rebellion. And this causes him to really grow and develop as a character. He's the guy that the crew go to with their problems. He's the wise leader who can advise them through difficult decisions. To me, some of the best episodes in Star Wars Rebels revolved around the development of Kanan's character as he struggles to become a mentor to Ezra, as he struggles to teach Sabine the skills that she'll need to lead Mandalore in the future. And really, what's great about him is the fact that while he may not agree with the military tactics of the rebellion, he sticks around and he helps out because it's what Hera wants to do and he is devoted to supporting her. And I find that really great in his character, and it's something that makes him a really, really likeable character. Kanan Jarrus gets my number 9.
Troopers, focus your fire on the Jedi.
Number 8 is Jyn Erso. Whichever way you slice it, Jyn is just awesome. The first time I saw Rogue One, she gave me the image of a kind of Ellen Ripley in the Star Wars universe. You know, she's this tough young warrior who's just no nonsense, get the job done, get in, get out. With a streak of selfishness, probably due to the tragedy of her backstory, which is covered in the first act of the film. And yet by the end of the film, where she's grown and developed as a character, she's then prepared to sacrifice herself for her cause and for the greater good of the galaxy. And as such, she symbolises what it means to be a real rebel. You know, doing whatever you can for the cause, and putting your own needs aside for the needs of others. And in a way, she's got several character traits that are very reminiscent of Luke Skywalker's character in the original Star Wars. You know, she's an orphan that comes from nothing, and by the end of the film she rises to be a hero of the rebellion, but she never really gets the gratitude that Luke gets because she doesn't survive her final mission. I mean, sure, they get a snowspeeder squadron named after them 2 movies later, but really, what's that? There's a really great line in Doctor Who that I think sums up why her character works so well, and that's doing what's right without recognition, without hope, and without reward. And that basically sums up what Jyn Erso is. She does what she does because it's the right thing to do. She's not expecting any kind of reward, she's not even expecting to survive doing it, but she gets it done. She's a brilliant character, she's played brilliantly by Felicity Jones. She gets my number 8 spot.
What chance do we have? The question is what choice? Run, hide, plead for mercy, scatter your forces. You give way to an enemy this evil with this much power, and you condemn the galaxy to an eternity of submission. The time to fight is now!
Number 7 is Rey. Now what I really like about Rey is she comes into the series as this naive, wide-eyed child and then gets thrust into the middle of something so much bigger than her, surrounded by characters who are the descendants of great heroes from the history of Star Wars. And here she is just as this girl from the junkyard of the galaxy who's stuck in the middle of a war that really has nothing to do with her. But coming from this sort of background, she's really grown as a character as the movies have progressed. Obviously when she starts out, all she wants to do is get the job done and get back to Jakku. But now as the series has progressed, she's this kind of illuminating presence in the Resistance, this idea that the Jedi could rise again from this one character. Rey's character in The Last Jedi specifically has really broadened this as a more sort of universal energy field, kind of like what I feel the original idea for the Force was, the idea that really anybody can access the Force if they just believe in it enough. And that's what I really like about Rey's character. She's kind of made the Star Wars universe more inclusive. It's not just people who have got the right blood for it. It's not just people who have got these special midichlorians in them. The Force really does belong to everybody. It doesn't just belong to the Jedi. Now a lot of people like to drone on about the fact that she's the perfect character, she's got no character flaws. What are you talking about? Of course she's got character flaws. As I said, she's naive, she's emotionally unbalanced, she's struck with severe abandonment issues. And this constantly causes her to make the wrong decisions as the series goes on. So as a result, this creates a very complex and a very relatable character. And I'm really looking forward to see where it goes next. Rey Number 6 is Chewbacca. Now, you can't really think about Star Wars without thinking about Chewie. He's one of the first things that pops into your head when you're thinking about the movies. What's brilliant about Chewie's character is he never speaks a word of dialogue in the whole series, just a series of growls and roars, and yet you always know what he's saying, you always know what he's thinking, you always know how he feels. Which is really impressive when there are some characters who talk too much in the series and yet never get their points across at all. Chewie is just a lovely character, really. He's friendly, he's welcoming, he is loyal to the core, he has this tremendous sense of honour, and it's almost like as new characters come into the series, he's just like, oh, you're joining in now. Okay, with the exception of maybe Lando. And what I really like about Chewie is in the original Star Wars, there weren't that many alien characters that had leading roles. Most of them were confined to like the cantina scene, actually really just the cantina scene. What Chewie showed for me was that this conflict really was on a galactic scale. It wasn't just between the human/humanoid characters, it really did involve everyone. Chewie was there to show that the aliens were getting involved in this too. Obviously, since the first movie, we've had all of the extra material explaining how Kashyyyk was conquered by the Empire and the Wookiees were used as slaves, and that's how Han and Chewie came to meet each other in the first place. But really, what makes Chewie such a great character is the fact that he is a character. He's fleshed out and developed. He's not just a weird-looking alien that gets half a second of screen time in the background of a J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. He's fully invested in the series and fully involved in what's going on. Now obviously up to this point he's been really involved because of his friendship with Han, so I'm really interested to see where Chewie goes now. Obviously he seems to have gravitated towards Rey the same sort of way that Han did in Force Awakens, so I'll be really fascinated to see where his character goes next. But for now, Chewbacca gets my number 6.
That sounds very scary. You must be so brave.
Number 5 is Luke Skywalker. Now I know what you're thinking. The main character of the series at the number 5 spot. What? Let me explain. In the original Star Wars movie, I didn't really like Luke's character at all. He was whiny, he was selfish, he was very, very childish. I just never really gravitated towards him as a character. Now as the series went on and he started to grow and learn and develop, yeah, by the time Return of the Jedi rolls around, I was really invested in him and I really liked his character. He was the archetypal hero to me. But every now and then it's still a little bit difficult for me to get away from that first impression I got of him in the original movie.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
This may not be a very popular opinion, however, it's about to get worse. I really liked him in The Last Jedi. I found the idea of exploring a hero who's made a mistake and took it to heart and really broken down as a character absolutely fascinating. Really, if you think about it, here is a guy who has let down not just anybody, he's let down his nephew, he's let down his sister, and he's let down his best friend all in one go. That's not something you just get over. And I thought the idea of exploring how he reacted to that failure was absolutely brilliant. And for me that's largely due to the fact that it's getting to explore what happens to the hero after the story ends. This is a great way of exploring what happened to Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi. You know, he goes on with this very pumped up ego of being Luke Skywalker, the legend, and then he makes a terrible mistake and it all comes crashing down. Just because it's the end of the movie doesn't mean that everybody lived happily ever after, and Luke Skywalker, particularly in The Last Jedi, is a perfect example of that. And so as a result of this, as a result of his unique character growth, and because of the nostalgia that he is the archetypal sci-fi hero, Luke Skywalker gets my number 5.
Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Number 4 is Yoda. Now a lot like Chewie, you can't talk about Star Wars without talking about Yoda. One of the great things about Empire Strikes Back was that first introduction to Yoda's character. It was hilarious. And even now watching it back after having the prequels as well, it's still brilliant. It's still a great introduction to Yoda's character. Yoda is the character that really brings in the philosophy of the Force and introduces it to the audience. You know, this idea that strength in the Force comes from within, it comes from balance, patience, and intense training in the forest, and the distinct divide between the light side and the dark side. And as such, Yoda really is the archetypal idea of what a Jedi should be. He really is the definitive wise old mentor character. You know, he's lived for 900 years, he has trained practically every Jedi at some point in their life, and as a result, he knows everything there is to know about the Jedi way. And let's face it, he is just awesome. I will never forget the day when I was sitting in the cinema watching Attack of the Clones and watched him pull out his lightsaber for the first time. I had no idea what was going on, but I loved it. The little green Buddha gets my number 4.
A long time have I watched. All his life as he looked away to the future, to the horizon, never his mind on where he was. What he was doing.
Number 3 is Leia Organa. Now, as opposed to how I felt about Luke in the original Star Wars, I had the complete opposite experience with Princess Leia. All of a sudden, here is this character that immediately has this strong sense of purpose. You know, she's sure of herself. She doesn't need a character arc as she grows into the role of a hero from a selfish, whiny teen. She's already at the point where she knows what she has to do, and she's going to do whatever she has to do it. What's brilliant about Princess Leia is that she effectively revolutionized what the word princess means. You know, for decades we'd had Disney forcing this idea down our throats of what a princess is. You know, this weak, effectively useless character that just likes to sit around and wait for somebody else to fix their problems, usually some big strapping man. And all of a sudden here comes this character that doesn't let their status of a princess overshadow their duty. If anything, it further emphasizes her need to do the right thing. All through the film, she's shown as having this unwavering sense of leadership in the face of insurmountable odds. Right from the off, with a battle station the size of a moon that's able to destroy planets. Then into the Empire Strikes Back, where they're being chased across the galaxy one stop at a time. She simply refuses to give up hope. She's always a beacon of hope in the rebellion, and even after defeating the Empire, when she could have effectively just retired and enjoyed the rest of her life, no, she continued the fight. She stood up in the New Republic for what was right, and when the First Order started to rise, she stepped away, became a general, and continued the good fight. People who say that there are no strong female characters in popular culture need look no further than Princess Leia. I mean, it's not like Princess Peach ever turned around and kicked Bowser in the nads. And for all these reasons, Princess Leia is my number 3 choice.
I love you.
I know.
Hands up! Stand up!
Number 2 is Han Solo. Now, I mentioned in my Solo review that Han Solo is a very popular favourite character. Well, now you know where he is on my list. Now, what's great about Han is he has one of the best character arcs in the entire series. You know, he starts off as this scoundrel smuggler who doesn't believe in anything, and then by the time The Force Awakens rolls around, what's really ironic is that he's one of the few people in the galaxy who actually knows and believes that everything that happened was real. You know, the Jedi have become a myth. He knows they were real. The Force has been fantasized as this thing that doesn't really exist. He knows it's real.
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
He really is the character of the everyman. He's a normal guy in a sci-fi film. He's the audience's window into the movie. And this makes him incredibly relatable and incredibly likable as a character. You know, he's incredibly comical, he's very satirical about everything that's going on around him, and yet he manages to do all these things without being annoying. He manages to do it while still being likable, even though he's practically making fun of everything that's going on around him. And that's something that I really like about him, the fact that he evolves from this character who doesn't believe in anything when we first meet him, to being this wise old smuggler in his last film. He is the ultimate characterization of a wall of false bravado hiding a good-hearted man underneath. And that's why Han Solo gets the number 2 spot on my list.
Yes, I bet you have.
Sorry about the mess.
However, my number 1 favourite Star Wars hero is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, even before we first meet Ben Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie, his reputation precedes him, the reputation of a legendary Jedi Master. And really, for that first film, he completely encapsulates what a Jedi is, because we haven't met another one yet, so all we have to go on is this character. This character of a wise old mentor, this character of a calm and peaceful old man. And yet we learn very early on that he served in a galactic conflict known as the Clone Wars. And then we have his role in the animated Clone Wars series, and some of the best episodes of that show centered around Obi-Wan Kenobi's character. We got to fully explore this guy who was initially presented as being the perfect Jedi, when all of a sudden we find out he's not perfect. You know, he harbours a tremendous amount of resentment towards Darth Maul for losing Qui-Gon very, very early on in his training. We learned that he had a past romance with Duchess Satine that he had to leave behind to further pursue his career in the Jedi Order. So really what we have here is a character who goes through a similar story arc to Anakin Skywalker, but goes through it to the opposite extreme. You know, Anakin loses his mother, goes on a rampage, and murders everyone involved. Obi-Wan loses his mentor and his father figure, and represses that pain, forces it right down so it doesn't affect him until it comes exploding to the surface when Darth Maul returns. Anakin falls in love with Padme, and embarks on this secret romance that more or less ends up controlling his life. Obi-Wan experiences a similar thing with Duchess Satine, but turns his back on it, not allowing himself the experience of being in love and experiencing that kind of passion in your life. Now, it's not that one of these characters is doing the right thing and the other one is doing the wrong thing. They're both doing the wrong thing, but they're doing it at polar opposite extremes on the scale. Where Anakin just embraces everything that comes into his path, Obi-Wan tries desperately to repress everything, and it builds this fascinating character of someone who truly believes in the Jedi Order and is more or less letting them control his life. So really, Obi-Wan Kenobi fully encapsulates what it means to be a Jedi, while at the same time being incredibly satirical, incredibly funny, having some of the best lines in the prequel trilogy, while also having some of the best moments in the Clone Wars series. And it all culminates in the character that we see at the start of A New Hope. And so, for all of these reasons, and more that I could go on listing for hours, Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favourite Star Wars hero.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
So that was my list for my top 10 favourite Star Wars heroes. Who's your favourite Star Wars hero? Let me know in the comments down below, and hey, while you're at it, leave me a like and subscribe. As usual, I've been Wiseman Tanofsky, this has been WMTop 10, thank you very much for watching, and remember...
If you will not
subscribe,
you will be destroyed.